Tutorial, I'm doing Unit 3, Lesson 6 in Code.org, Discoveries course. It's very important that you watch the video here and read the introduction here. But I'm going to start for the purpose of this video here in this tab for creating sprites. And I think that this is a great tab to take the URL up here and copy it like I've done on this other screen here, and paste it somewhere where you can keep going back to it, because this is a really helpful tab to have. It explains that how a sprite goes together on the screen. You have several parts. You have to create the sprite, and that involves setting a variable. So you're saying variable my_bunny. You can give this any name you want. It's totally up to you. I would suggest giving it a name that makes sense. I wouldn't call it cow if it's a bunny. So that's pretty straightforward. And then we have to create the sprite here, and this tells us where to put it on the screen. So 200, 200 is going to be 200 over and 200 down, right in the center, right where the bunny is. And then the next part we have to do is, this part's called creating the sprite, and this we have to set the animation. So basically, we're going to say that this variable, myBunny, is set to look like a bunny. Because if you remember in the past section, when we didn't have this command here, we just had a square on the screen. So this is the command that tells the computer which picture to put on. And we're going to play with those pictures soon. And then the last thing is draw sprites. So if you can remember the order of these three commands, they're going to come up over and over all the way through. So make a note here so that you can come back when you need to. Let's continue on and see what we have here. Okay, so our first exercise, creating sprites. Creates a new sprite and assigns it a variable, just in the past. So you're going to give it a name. This one's called sprite. I wouldn't recommend that name because it's not very clear what it is. And then create sprite. And that just says to the computer, create a sprite and call it sprite. Drawing. So sprites only appear on the screen when you draw them. This command, draw sprites, will draw all your created sprites on the screen. This program includes comments that let you know where to place the code, but otherwise it's blank. Your program should look like the image on the right. The first time I get into any of these lessons, I always just hit run to see what happens. So nothing happens. Sometimes something happens, and that's useful. So we're going to add the create sprite command, and then we're going to ignore the triangle. Okay, so let's create the sprite. Create sprite. Okay, and then we're going to draw the sprite. There we go. Create sprite, draw sprite. We're just going to call it sprite. There. So that's the default image. We didn't tell the computer what to make that sprite look like. We just said create it, put it in the middle, and draw it. Let's finish. Okay, and this is a little quiz where you think it's going to show up. So think about your grid. You can show the grid, and you can drag your cursor around to look at the numbers here. So that might help with that. And then the next assignment. Okay, this one says, let's make some more room. This program should create two new sprites, one on the left and one on the right, but it's only drawing one. So just rearrange these. So what we can do is just make sure that the draw sprites is at the end. And that's going to come up a lot of times when you're working on a long code and you can't figure out why one of your sprites isn't showing up. Make sure your draw sprites comes after everything else. Okay. All right, so we've got a couple more pieces of information. We're not going to watch the movie together, but you definitely should watch it because it's very helpful. Okay, this is Jumpy. But basically it says there's an animation tab. So we have code and animation. And this is where we put all our pictures. And we have several choices on how to add pictures in here. So let's move on because this is too jumpy to watch. And we'll talk about adding some images. Okay, so let's run it. That's the first thing I do every time. Okay, we have a pink Martian. Okay. On the Animations tab, you'll see three images that have been loaded for you. So let's go there. Oh, there they are. Alien, Bunny, and Flybot. Let's go back to our code. So this is how you go back and forth. Animation, code. Animation, code. Okay. And then it says, once you've created a sprite, you can use the set animation command to change the look of your sprite so that we don't have a gray square. All the images you've loaded in the animation tab will show up in the animation dropdown. So when I click this pull down, you can see I have Alien, Bunny, and Flybot because that's what's available over here. Okay, so once you've created a sprite, you can use the set animation to change the look. Okay, do this. Change the sprite to your favorite image from the animations tab. Okay, and then run the code. Change the input to set animation. Okay. So this says cool sprite and cool sprite, which is kind of, doesn't really tell us what it is. So let's do this. Let's change it to bunny. And then I'm not sure what a good variable for bunny would be, but I might call it bun or bunny. And this has to always match. And this is going to also be something that might catch you later. If you set a variable name, you have to refer to it as bunny all the way through your program. If a common mistake is when you drag something out there, it says sprite by default, and sometimes we forget to change it to bunny. So that's just a word of something to look out for. Okay, let's run it. There it is. Okay, that's all we had to do there. Continue. Okay, so this says upload your image. So now we can create our own image. So let's go down to the animation tab. And we're going to add a new animation. And this is a fun screen because we can add from all these things that exist in the program, or we can upload something from the computer or draw our own. So I could go in here and I could call it kite draw. And we can draw a kite right here with our draw tool. There we go. And I could fill it in with, say, pink. Let's do that. Choose a pink color. There, and then here's my paint bucket. We'll go back to black. I'm just going to draw a quick kite here because I'm not an artist, but I just want to show how it works. And I'm going to call that kite draw. The other thing I could do is go online and look for, I could just hit the word kite and then go to images, and I could pick a picture of a kite. I'll take this one's pretty right here. So I can right click that, save image as. I'll put it right on my desktop and I'll call it kite. Okay, and now I'm going to go back to my program, back to my animation tab, and I can add a new animation, and this one I can upload it from my computer. Click my desktop, and there's my kite right there, and open it. Okay, so now I have kite and kite draw, so I could use either one. Let's go back to the code. Okay. Don't worry if your kite's too big. You'll learn how to fix that later. Okay, so now my variable is kite, and then that's where it's going to go at 350. We can show grid if that's helpful. 350, right about there. Okay. We're drawing our background is sky blue, and we're drawing some grass, which is green, and so that is going to be a rectangle. We'll see how it works. Let's just run it. There's our green rectangle for the grass, and then through the string, and now we're drawing the sprite. But you see the sprite is just a big gray circle, and we have draw sprites, so it's drawing. We need 3 pieces. We've set a variable. The one piece we don't have is the set animation. So that's what we need to drag in. We need to not forget to change the kite, this word sprite, to kite, and then we can choose from here. So we can use the kite draw. I could try the kite draw. Let's try that. There you go. It's too small, but we could fix that later. And then the other one is kite. And that one's too big, and it has a big white square behind it. So I think I will leave it to my kite draw. My kite draw looks a little less of a problem. Okay, so once you get yours in there, hit finish. Alrighty, And now we can resize. And the way that we're going to resize is we're going to go in this sprite, and right now we just have scale. And so anything we put the name kite before, kite.scale, you'll have some more commands like that later. But if I change this to kite.scale. Okay, a scale of 1 to 1 equals the same. So it's going to come out the same. If I make it 0.5, that's half the size. Let's get in there. Okay, 0.5. That's half the size. So let's see what happens. It's even smaller. That's not going to work. So let's go 2 because that's twice as big. And try that. That's a little bit better. And I could go, if I want it just a tiny bit better, I could go 2.3 or give it some amount more. There you go. So that's all right for perspective. Maybe I'll make it 3. See what it looks like. There we go. All right, it's a little off the screen. What could I do about that? Let's see. It is 300 over and 50 down. Maybe if I make it more farther down, it will be better looking. There we go. Okay. All right. This is a quiz to see if you can predict what something's going to look like. And this is where we can add some text. So we're going to change the displayed text, and then we're going to add a second text. So we're saying the background's light yellow. Change me to another text block. Let's run it first. Change me to another text block. So I'll say, hello. And then I'll drag another one out there. Text. I'll say, welcome to my grid. Okay. Welcome to my grid and hello. Let's put this one below that one. So 50 over and how far down? Just below the 200. Let's say 225. There. Hello, welcome to my grid. All right, so this is all about order, of how we order things. And again, I would remind you to look back into section 3, creating sprites, which I'll bring up again, because this is a good reference for the order of things. And then I would look in here. And so this is all just about figuring out what is on top of what. So in this example that you're trying to get to, it looks like the pink background is first, should be first, because it's the thing in the background. And then the next thing would be the green monster. What is this? What are they calling it? The prisoner. Okay, so the next thing would be the prisoner, because the prisoner is on top of the background, but behind the text and behind the bars. And then the bars would go next, and then the text on top. So that would be the order. The computer reads things in the order that you put it in. So we're going to put the background, the prisoner, the bars, and then the text. So that will be your challenge for this lesson. We can run it. See, it's all backwards. So we just need to drag these things in the right order and their colors. Because when you say dark gray, you're talking about all these bars. So you'd need to keep the dark gray with it. And then, lastly, for today's tutorial, I'm going to hit finish. Of course, you won't hit finish till they're in order. This is a scene that we're going to create later of your choice. So all we would need to do is get out a piece of paper and draw the scene, what you want it to look like, with the background, there's some text, there's somebody on the screen, some sprite that you either draw or find on the internet or choose from the library. So that would be the end of this tutorial.